And my first question to Mayor Adams is, what is your vision to bring back New York to its height where it's always been? And everybody on this call loves New York. We want New York to be the greatest city in the world like it's always been. Mayor Adams, your floor.
Thank you, John. And, you have been a real symbol of not only the New York dream, but the American dream. Come here as a Greek immigrant, worked hard and become a successful businessman. But that's only 50% of the journey for many of you on this call. Being successful in your business is only the tip of the iceberg. You are successful in ensuring your philanthropic actions to help so many people. You, it's the PAL and others, and many of the people on this call have been giving back in so many ways. And Harry is right. Harry, this group has been this beginning of this journey, understanding that I had one vision for this city that I believe we can build everything on top of, and that was public safety. Public safety is a prerequisite to our prosperity. No matter how well we're doing as a city, if we are not safe, we cannot enjoy our success. Our children must be able to go to school safely. Your employees must be able to get in their workplace safely. The commuters on our railways must move safely. And that is what we took upon January 1st, 2022, when I became mayor. All of those safety numbers were trending in the wrong direction. Job numbers were trending in the wrong direction. The economy was moving in the wrong direction. And many people stated it would take anywhere from 5 to 6 years before we recover. That just was not the case. What are we looking at now? On this day in November, we're looking at double-digit decrease in shootings, homicides. 5 of the 7 major crime categories are down. People are back on the subway system. We're capping out at 4 million riders. Tourism is back. Over 60 million tourists are going to visit this city. You're seeing the first and the highest number of private sector jobs created in the city in the history of the city. We are seeing an economy that, although we're dealing with the issues of inflation and other issues, we are still recovering because we're smart in how we're using taxpayers' dollars. And so I must continue to drive down crime, continue to encourage businesses to come here. Yesterday, JP Morgan Chase just opened their headquarters, topped out a beam at their headquarters, a vision of how our economic strength is always going to be in the city. And I'm going to continue to move us forward. Our number one issue that we must face right now, that I need smart business leaders like yourselves, is to help me address the asylum seeker issue. 142,000 migrants and asylum seekers entered our city. We have been successful in getting 50% of them stabilized, but we still have over 65,000 that's still in our care. We need to allow them to work, to fill the employment positions that many of you have. And we need to ask the federal government to, one, have a decompression strategy so the other cities, counties, and municipalities can also burden this weight. 2, they need to pay for this. This is a national problem. New York City's taxpayers should not be paying this cost. And 3, we need to make sure we secure our border in a manner which we're vetting who's coming in, so it does not become a public safety issue. We're going to continue to do our job, but we do need the national government to do its job.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and I agree with you 110%. My grandfathers were immigrants that came to America in 1913, and traditionally we had Ellis Island, where everybody came through Ellis Island to make sure they loved America. They make sure they had no diseases. They had make sure they had no agendas. And I call upon that we reopen Ellis Island along the borders and say immigration, yes, but let's have checks and balances to make sure we're having good people come into the United States of America and not having drug dealers and terrorists and people that don't really love America. And that's the most important thing. So I agree with you. Immigration, yes, but let's have checks and balances. And I think President Biden should get that. And Mr. Mayor, in addition to that, we have 300 business people on this Zoom call this morning. And who in your staff can, sometimes business people have trouble communicating with the mayor's office. Who in your business staff have you assigned to have communications with the business community?
Well, they are not going to have trouble interacting with our office. That was one of my number one agenda items of, the three-letter term GSD, get stuff done. We are a city of yes. For far too long, we have been a city of no. Anytime businesses try to do something difficult or complicated, we started from the position of how it couldn't be done. We believe differently. My number one person team there, I have a 3-person team that is really driving our economic agenda. Number one, Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer. She's a real powerhouse. Under her portfolio, you have many of the business interests. She is really moving our city forward with housing development, economic opportunities, removing antiquated laws and policies on the books that have prevented businesses from growing and taking these undue fines away. And she has been a real powerhouse. The second is my head of EDC, Andrew Kimball. Many people know him from the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Then he went over to Industry City. He has spent years on generating and attracting new businesses here. We just did a groundbreaking last week at one of the large studios, movie and television studios in Sunnyside, Queens. Also last week, we did the announcement of a biotech hub that is being partnered with CUNY on the east side, which is going to be extremely powerful. Thousands of jobs, thousands of union jobs and permanent jobs. So you are seeing a real business-centered city. New York City is the Empire State. New York State is the Empire State. We build empires here. We don't get in the way of empires. And lastly, Commissioner Kim. Commissioner Kim is in charge of my small business services. He has put together a real initiative to go after our small businesses and how we give the support that's needed for small businesses and how this is part of our whole job recovery plan. And so I have a real team of people that's focused on how do we get businesses up, operating, function, and growing in the city of New York.
Thank you. One of the key ingredients of me and you have always talked about is quality of life in our city, safety. I'm used to, New Yorkers are used to walking around at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Drugstores were open to midnight. Supermarkets were open to midnight. Restaurants are open to midnight. And right now, people are feeling uncomfortable walking around after dark. What can we do to improve public safety? Commissioner Bratton and Commissioner Kelly have said to us, all of us, he said to us, if we took out 3,000 or 3,300 violent criminals off the streets of New York will be back to where it used to be. What can we do to make the quality of life better?
And those commissioners are correct. You know how I feel about Commissioner Bratton. I think he's one of the most exceptional public service and police commissioners we had in the city of New York. It's remarkable what he was able to do as he transformed police departments across the globe. And he's right. It's about safety is not only actual, it's also perceived. Believe it or not, when people talk about public safety, an example of a mayor that focuses on public safety, they talk about Rudy Giuliani. They use him as a symbol as a mayor. We are safer in this city than we were under his last term in office. Safety is both how the numbers are and how one feels. We must make sure that people feel safe and they are safe. And that is what we have done by making sure our police officers are out in uniform. We call it omnipresence. so that people can see that police officer, because that gives you the comfortability to move around. Remember, when we took office before our subway safety plan, and no one wanted to ride our subway system. We're back up to 4 million riders on our subway system. And so your people are feeling safe again in our city. Just go to Times Square any evening and you see thousands of people that are out there. Broadway is back open. And we are zeroing in on those petty quality of life crimes that people are experiencing. That is how you get your city in the proper order and don't give the feeling of disorder. But the commissioners are right. There's a small number of people who are repeated offenders, repeated shoplifters, repeated use of guns, repeated grand larceny auto. These are repeated offenders, and we must go after these habitual recidivists and make sure that they're held accountable for the crimes that they're doing repeatedly.
You're absolutely correct, Mayor. I've said this to many law enforcement. I said and I've said it to the DA's offices. I said if the person has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 violations for violent crimes, why are the judges allowing them to be on the streets of New York? At some point you got to throw the key away. And 5 violent crimes, 6, whatever the number is, it is. Now, in addition, the real estate industry is suffering a great deal in New York. The high interest rates that Washington again has done in New York, or well, nationwide, and the 30-year mortgage is 8%. Construction loans are 8%, and regulations. What can we do to ease regulations as far as you have to have electric toasters, you have to have electric this, electric that, to ease regulations while we're going through a transition mode of bringing New York City back?
Yeah, and many of those regulations are beyond the scope of the mayor. The mayor, either on the state level or the city level, a lot of these regulations are put in place. The mayor does not make those determinations about how we use these different regulations to carry out the functionality of cities and states. But we do clearly know that we have to do something about our environment. And a lot of these stuff, some of the stuff that you mentioned, is dealing directly with some of the environmental change of electrifying our vehicles, electrifying our heating and cooling sources. That's important because we're dealing with real climate change issues, and some of it is long-term and some of it is short-term plan. But being smart on how we do it without being overburdening to business owners and taxpayers is what we must have to find the proper balance. But we are on a real mission of improving our environment because we're dealing with environmental crises.
I know we all agree about the environment. We all agree that over the next 100 years, we may have the ocean rise 2 inches, but we got to survive till we get to that point. And that's what we need. The mayor has a lot of power. You can put your foot down, and you're a strong mayor. Put your foot down, say, guys, enough is enough. Let's our city survive until we get to the next step. And we all want what's best for our environment. We all want it. But it's a timing issue where we don't put everybody out of business in the meantime.
Yep, and I agree. And listen, I borrowed from my mom. I'm a common sense person, and common sense approaches to do things in a balanced way.
I guess you've always been a common sense person. That's why we all supported you, and supported you 8 years for borough president. We're going to support you for 8 years as mayor. Thank you. And,
Thank you.
And the next, has Washington gotten the message yet that we can't just keep shipping asylum seekers? I mean, you tried to get to Washington to present that message, but I guess they got upset.
Well, listen.
What I've been saying, so what I've been saying is that the fact is they got upset you were going to Washington to give them that message. That's me saying it. I don't want you to say it because whatever. But I was very upset about what happened that day because I thought that the fact is they waited for that day to do whatever they were doing. It was sending a message to how dare you come to Washington to tell us how to run our country.
Well, I think that New York City is part of the country, and in fact, it is the heart and soul of the country. One of the largest economic producers through taxes. We send billions of dollars to Washington, D.C., and I say to the city and state of New York City can't be negatively impacted by this asylum and migrant issue because it's going to impact not only the state, it's going to impact the entire country. And I can't speculate on the actions that took place a few weeks ago. I'm going to remain focused on moving this city, navigating the city forward. But I need all of you who are on this call. I need for you to speak with your federal lawmakers, write letters, utilize the platform like you have been using your platform to ask the federal government to give New York the support that they deserve. New York City and no city, Denver, Chicago, Washington, no city should be having to carry a national problem on their own.
You're absolutely correct. The problem was created by the federal government. The federal government has to help the cities survive through the next step. I also have to commend you, Mayor Adams, on making sure there's no cuts in the police department or fire department, because New York is the #1 is quality of life, and we have to keep our streets safe. So thank you for doing that and respecting our police officers and fire officers. What is the status of New York City workers coming to work 4 or 5 days a week?
What we're doing in order to remain competitive with hiring and with retention, we've been having a real retention problem. I'm pretty sure many of the business leaders who are on right now know how difficult it is to staff up. Many people want to work remotely for one reason or another. And so we modified our position here to make sure that although we couldn't give raises to managers, we gave them the flexibility of being able to work remotely a few days a week, as long as it doesn't impact on their work, because we have to remain competitive to keep the city running. And we found that on exit interviews, many people were leaving because they were able to go to other employment opportunities that allowed them the flexibility of work. And so oftentimes people don't realize city workers must be as competitive as private businesses to ensure you get the best talent to run a city. New York City is a corporation, over 300,000 employees of all of our agencies, all of the infrastructure of running our roads, public safety, education. And in order to make sure a corporation is humming and operating correctly, you must have the talent. And we need to do whatever we can do to retain and bring in the talent. And that was one of the areas that we saw we were losing good employees because of the lack of flexibility. And so we made that modification.
Mayor Adams, yesterday you were with Jamie Dimon from J.P. Morgan to top off the new building on Park Avenue. J.P. Morgan, one of the most powerful banks in not the country, the world. And what was your discussions with Jamie Dimon, the chairman of J.P. Morgan, about getting that building finished and filling it up with J.P. Morgan people?
Well, first of all, I said thank you to him. I thought it was the 1932 moment. And the reason I reflect on 1932, because we were coming out of the Great Depression, and it took a real heart of steel to put together steel and build the Empire State Building. And that building became a symbol of our recovery, our strength. And it was done in just a short period of time. And so that's what Jamie did. During COVID, when many people were fleeing the city, going to other municipalities, Jamie stated that J.P. Morgan was born and raised in New York, and he was not going to abandon the city. And he made that decision to build that building during COVID. And it is a magnificent building. It's a real symbol of our durability as a city and as a country. And so I told them, thank you. And we're going to get employees in that building and make sure that they remain here in the city. And his whole concern has always been, Eric, you keep it safe for us. We'll keep building and growing in this city.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have about a few minutes left. What else would you like to tell all New Yorkers about making our city have a comeback? I had Jimmy Petronis on my show the other day. He's the CFO of Florida, and he's bragging that they're going to make Miami the capital, the financial capital of the world. I said, Jimmy, I said to him, New York is the financial capital of the world. What would you say to Jimmy Petronis?
Well, you know what? We like some good, friendly competitiveness. That is what America is about. It's about the best will always emerge from the top. When I sit down with world leaders during the UN General Assembly, I sit down with mayors across the globe, with other leaders, heads of state. No one disputes the fact that New York City is number one. They argue about number two and number three. But when it comes down to what is the top city on the globe, everyone understands it's New York. So people will always be chasing New York. New York will never be chasing anyone else. And we're going to continue to remain not only the financial capital, early tech startups. We have surpassed other areas in San Francisco. We're the safest big city in America. And the diversity is our secret weapon. We are one of the most diverse cities on the globe, and we're going to continue to produce that good product that we can expect. This city is a city where dreams are made. And I think, as I stated in the beginning, you personify that by being a young man who had a dream, and look where you are now. Who would have imagined you would be running one of the top radio stations, as well as being a good business leader? This is what we produce in New York. You did not become John Catsimatidis in Miami. You became John Catsimatidis in New York, and there's a whole lot of John Catsimatidis that are sprouting and growing right now in this city.
Thank you. I love New York, and I'm going to always stay in New York, Mr. Mayor. Last question. It's a tough question.
No such thing as a tough question.
Congestion pricing. You know,
Yes.
what I said to everybody, yes, you know, we have one nail in the coffin for New York City and Manhattan. Why put a second nail in it? Why can't we just wait for congestion pricing for when after New York City makes a big comeback? I mean, I think you should go to the MTA and tell them that. They got a zillion, the MTA and the Port Authority has $1 zillion. What's an extra billion to them? Let's not punish New York.
Well, first of all, it's a federal decision in MTA. It's unfortunate that New York City doesn't have a greater voice, since this is playing out on our city streets. I believe we should have a greater voice in the formation, the distribution of money, and it should be coming to New York City, because this is a New York City issue. The MTA and the federal government, they are in true control over this. Our state lawmakers are also part of it. We have an appointment on the committee that is going to voice the concerns of New Yorkers. Particularly, we don't want to displace traffic into those areas that are already dealing with real health issues like the Bronx. And so there are many layers to this, and it's imperative that we have a full participatory plan where people's voices are heard, that we don't overburden, overtax those who have to use those streets daily, or those who have to come to the city for whatever medical procedures, such as, you know, if you're going for cancer treatment or something. So we are very much going to add our voice to this conversation with the MTA. But, you know, we cannot argue the fact we have a real, again, the congestion from buildings emissions and car emissions is a real issue in the city, as it leads to the environmental issues that we're facing. So we have to come up with some good solutions, and we have to make sure we do them in a timely way.
Mr. Mayor, if you put your foot down, all New Yorkers will find you. And that's a commitment from all New Yorkers. And I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for coming on this Zoom call with us. And I look forward in helping you in any way possible to keep New York the greatest city in the world. Thank you so much.
Wow,
Thank you. Take care. Good to see you guys. Be well, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.